On this week's episode of the Schmoeville podcast, I take it easy with Facebook admin Michael K. We discuss his viewing habits and continue our discussion on how we can help Schmoes grow. Haha, that's funny. We reflect on our new champion, Dan Murrell, and this special, intimate, pre-recorded episode of the Schmoes Know show, number 241. Welcome to the Schmoeville podcast, that podcast that celebrates your schmoes and everything that falls under that umbrella, including Collider Video. My name is Ryan Snelling, and I'll be your host. I am joined by Facebook admin Michael K. What's up, buddy?
How's it going, Ryan?
I'm really excited that you're here. I don't know much about you. I don't think you know anything about me, so it'll be nice to get to know you here on the show and hear sort of your viewing habits, your opinions on everything that we usually talk about here on the Schmoeville podcast. I've been given permission indirectly to just relax because that's what the Schmoes did tonight. They had a pre-recorded show tonight because they're kind of getting ready, taking a break before all the madness at Comic-Con, which is totally understandable. So we'll get into that shortly. But let me just hear about you and sort of your background with Schmoes. How did you get involved? How did you become a fan of these guys? Just give me the 101 on Michael K. and Schmoeville. All
right, I'm pretty sure you guys in Schmoeville have heard or have read this story a couple times, but I first got into Schmoes Know through Movie Talk, which at the time was AMC.
Sure.
For like a lot of people, I started off with after the Man of Steel review, which became kind of AMC's breakout video. That's around the time when
But I haven't seen it yet. I have not seen it yet.
Oh, it's a classic. But anyway, that's when I started watching Movie Talk, kind of semi-regular at first, but then once, like, around September, that's when you started seeing, like, Christian and Mark kind of make guest appearances on Movie Talk, and that's when I started watching, like, every day, especially because I wanted to see these guys whenever they came up as guests. But it took me a while to actually get into Schmoes Know itself. I think it was around April 2014. That's when Christian, Alicia Malone, and Miri became the new regulars.
Uh-huh.
And then that's when I'm like, you know what? I should really check out these Schmoes because I like these guys when they show up on Movie Talk, and I want to get to know them a little bit more just on their own. And then I started with the Godzilla review. Mark, that's like the first review that like Mark and I really agreed on, because I was a big fan of the 2004 Godzilla film. And then after that, my first podcast.
2014?
Yeah, 2014.
Okay. I was like, did I miss one?
But the first live show I saw was I can't remember exactly the episode it was. I think it was either the Godzilla spoiler discussion or the Days of Future Past discussion.
Uh-huh.
And then just from there, the rest is history. That soon after, I found the Schmoeville Facebook group, and then I just became fast friends with pretty much everyone, including all the admins.
Sure. So you've seen a lot of progression, and that's been one of my favorite things in the past year. Like you, I got into Movie Talk before any of it, and I've really enjoyed seeing what Collider Video has become, and then learning more about the Schmoes and the progress. But you've obviously seen more progression than I have. And last week we had Brian Fernandez on, so you two are sort of in the same company, and I had a big conversation about involving our viewing habits between the two channels, and I think Christian is really trying to push growing these channels and figure out how they can capitalize and get a higher new subscriber count. So me and him had a huge conversation about it last week, and I said that I was going to be talking about it for the next few weeks to get different ideas. I don't know. You might have a different perspective, but is there anything that you have noticed that just like really works or really doesn't work that you think that they could change for either channel, whether it be Collider Video or Schmoes Know? Because I think if they change, and you can tell me if you agree with this, I think if they change anything about either channel, it'll benefit or not benefit the other. It's sort of like I don't know, they kind of have like an osmosis going on between the two channels. Do you agree with that?
A little bit. I do have to say one of the best things that has happened to both channels is the merger between Collider and Schmoes.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, because personally that just makes things easier for the people involved, because they're all under the same roof now, so that makes communication and preparing for the show easier. Plus, since they have their own studio, like at the Collider studio, they have more freedom. Like, they're not under so much pressure to stay like exactly 2 hours for the live show. But I do hear what you're saying. Like, one of the cons is sort of like there are times when the two channels kind of like they can be a little too similar. Like, you get a little bit too used to there's not really enough. There's probably not enough like distinction between Collider and Schmoes at some points. So that's maybe one thing they could work on. Otherwise,
I definitely see that when it comes to just like putting out the huge movie reviews. Like, when you have a Captain America Civil War review that they have to get out, they usually do two versions of it on Collider. They'll do the non-spoiler and then the all-spoiler. And then, of course, they're doing that for Schmoes as well, usually. So there's a lot of... I think when it comes to that, there's sort of like a lot of... what kind of word do I want? I used it last week. They just cross back and forth, and it's kind of, like you said, there's not a lot of difference in that type of content. And I asked Christian if he was ever worried about that at all moving forward, especially because he's talking about... And I'll bring this up again later. He's talking about making the Schmoes Know show a daily thing, and I was sort of kind of worried that it might be too similar to the daily movie talk. And I'll get more into that later because I want to bring that up later. But just hearing them talk about that, I don't think they're going to. Like, I think the only way they can do it is just the movie reviews. I think they're smarter than that, and I just don't think it's going to be a lot of the same. But, it's people talking about movies, so it might kind of feel repetitive. But I just don't think... I think it's by accident, but I don't think moving forward we're going to get too much of that.
I see where you're coming from.
So what over time, like, what is there something that you have seen that you don't think they should focus on, or do you have any ideas about what they could do moving forward?
That's a good question. Maybe like right now I'm specifically talking about Collider.
Okay.
Maybe I like the idea of branching out with the specialty series like Heroes, Jedi Council, and now Nightmares.
Right.
Nightmares is a great show. I want to see a little bit more of that if time allows, because I've seen some days where they put up like 5 to 10 videos a day of all the different shows. But the more crew they add, probably the easier that can be.
For sure. But it's also a huge budgetary issue. Like, they can't just keep adding people. And I know some people come in and out, like a lot of the people that you saw doing those TV recaps that they used to do, which lately they haven't been as frequent just because, like, they had The Flash going, they had Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. going at one point, and they've even cut back on those. That's actually another, and I didn't mention this last week, I think that's another thing that they should start doing more of. And I think with the TV talk team in place, I think they're trying to do that. They're not as consistent as I'd like them to be, because sometimes they just, I don't want to, getting lazy is not the word, that's not what I mean to say, but sometimes they just they just throw it in an episode of TV Talk instead of putting it out as its own episode. Like, I think there should be, I think Makuga and somebody else should always put out a Preacher video and always put out like a Mr. Robot video, and maybe not make it just the long form like TV recaps that they had done last fall. So I definitely think they should do them, but maybe just short form and
like 10 to 15 minutes for an episode.
Right. Exactly. Maybe more of, well, that's a bad example. I was gonna say, but they also had a really good Game of Thrones one with Roka. So I think if they make those a little bit shorter and consistently do those, I think those would help tremendously. I mean, it's kind of like everybody's getting into the TV recap game. Like the movie review game, I feel like Schmoes were kind of OGs at it. But over the past couple years, I feel like just a lot of people are also recapping television season by season. Even like just small-time creators like myself are looking more into, and even someone like you, because you do Geeks and Gamers, right?
Mm-hmm.
So is that something that you work on, the TV recaps and stuff?
Well, mostly I just do like the CW shows, just like Arrow, The Flash, Legends of Tomorrow. But what I've done differently is Brock and I we've put that into like one show, talking about like all of them at once, kind of like TV Talk, but just more focused.
Sure. Oh, more focused. You have something to say about TV Talk?
No. Just focus as in like a particular genre or a franchise.
It's not just like a rundown of several different different topics. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have no problem with TV Talk. TV Talk is a lot of fun to watch, especially when Sasha became a regular.
Absolutely. I agree. And I even said it last week. I think TV Talk is probably, I don't know if it's my favorite, but I kind of think it's the best show that Collider's doing right now.
It's also the funniest.
It is the funniest. I think that team in place, it has the most chemistry together. Like, I think, and they're all like totally different personalities, and I just think they accent each other so well. And sometimes, it's great seeing people coming in and out with like on Movie Talk or Jedi Council. I mean, there are people that rotate in and out, but with TV Talk, it's been for the most part just that core group. With the obviously Perry was on this week, so that's an exception, and I think Ellis did a TV Talk once. But overall, though, that table takes control, and I love that team in place. Plus, I just get more out of hearing, get more out of listening to television talk because I'm constantly on Twitter. I know all the movie news anyway, and I've talked about that before. So, for the most part, I'm just wanting to hear what they think about a particular news thing, even though I don't need to watch it for that.
Yeah, same thing with me. Like, I don't need movie talk. I just like it because I like the people. For sure.
And I mean, I'm curious though. I talk about fan fatigue. Since you got started with movie talk, do you still watch every day? Like, what are your viewing habits when it comes to that kind of stuff?
Well, movie talk is something that I still watch every day. The live shows like Movie Talk and Schmoes, I like if I'm available, I'm definitely there.
Right.
The ones that are not live are usually it depends when they're uploaded. Sometimes I'm at work when like Jedi Council or Heroes is uploaded, so I'll catch it later. But otherwise, I usually keep up with everything they have, except when it's something that doesn't interest me, or I haven't seen a show or movie yet, so I don't want to get spoiled right away.
Sure. Do you have any ideas for like what we can do as a community, as fans? Do you have any ideas that we can sort of implement into our daily routine when it comes to helping them grow?
Well, what's been a hit so far on the Schmoeville Facebook group is the master posts that the admins have been doing. It keeps like a conversation going. I'm not sure how we can grow that beyond the group. Maybe have something on the Schmoes Know website, something similar. I can't really think of anything else to implement a steady viewing schedule.
Right. I think it would help tremendously if they put out more content that was viral based, but not just like they do kind of the sketch stuff on the SK podcast channel, and that's always great. And I think they put out that Pokemon Go video this week, so I would like to see more of that. Like, I think the only problem with that is that it's on the SK podcast channel. You know, it's not on the channel that we're talking about growing, the Schmoes Know and Collider. So I feel like if they did more of those types of videos and involving sort of what's trending on the internet, what's trending on YouTube, what's trending on Twitter, like Pokemon Go is, for example, I feel like we just need more of that. And whether it's like sketch comedy or whatever, or it's like my idea last week was sort of like how you see on late night, how like on Jimmy Kimmel, that he'll send somebody out into the field and they'll be talking to people on the street about a certain thing. Like, that was just an idea that I had.
That could be a Makuga thing.
That could be a Makuga thing. You're right. Well, but he's busy doing Comic-Con HQ though, so it's like
True.
if there was somebody and I knew more about like who had the most sort of flexibility in that schedule, and like what I thought of is like have Ellis talk to people outside of a movie theater and sort of like just be funny with them and ask them how they thought about a movie. If
Actually, you know, would be a great idea. Since Ellis travels a lot because of his comedy tour.
Yeah.
That would be a great way to, you know, grow the brand. Just do when he's on the road, like quick 5-minute videos, just kind of like interviewing people in the audience, doing something like you mentioned.
Oh, you mean like at in the audience of his comedy show?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know how he would feel about that. I kind of think I've seen him do stand-up twice. I personally think, and from talking to him, I think he kind of keeps them separate. Like, I think it's the other way around for him. I think he uses Schmoes Know to help fuel his stand-up comedy, and he said it before that he considers himself a stand-up comedian before anything else. So I think that's actually what's more important to him. So I just don't think he wants to take the attention away from his stand-up, I guess. And he, both times that I saw him, I don't think he mentioned Schmoes Know at all the first time I saw him. And I think he briefly threw it out there in the middle of the second time that I saw him. But again, he doesn't wear a t-shirt for it. He just kind of keeps it. They use it to like introduce him on stage, and that's the extent of it. So I just personally think he's going to keep that separate. Now, I mean, if the idea was he could make a video while he's on the road, like go to a theater and like while he's in this city make a video of talking to somebody about a movie or whatever, then I think that would make more sense. But as far as like doing it at the club or something, trying to push Schmoes, I don't think he would have that kind of interest. So, but again, that's what I would like to see. I mean, it just reminds me of like the late night skits, you know, put a stand-up comedian, someone who's going to be able to make fun of people, but also talk to them about a movie, and it'd just be really interesting to see that. And, you know, it's not the most original idea. I've sort of been trying to develop over the past few weeks something that they might be able to do, but, you know, it's hard. I mean, it's hard as a creator, and you probably know this too, as a creator online. I mean, it's hard to stand out. So even not for those guys. They have obviously done a great job, but as far as trying to push themselves and push boundaries, you know, it's tough. So,
right.
I don't know. Do you have anything else to say on any of those points before we talk about the Schmoedown?
I think we covered enough ground for now. This is obviously a conversation that's going to keep going, like for the next couple weeks, or until they reach like a new milestone.
Right, for sure. So let's talk about last week's Schmoedown. I mean, it was huge. We had Riley and Merle go at it for the title, and I said this last week. I went for Riley. I said I'm gonna go with him one more time. I believe that he's gonna go 6-0, but I don't think I can be on his side anymore because the more he wins, the less likely he is to continue on this winning streak. I mean, he's got to go down at some point, but I said I will give him this win one more time, and man, am I regretting it because I knew that he would fall. It was just a matter of time, but I should have, I don't know, gone with my gut and just called it. But how did you feel about who did you pick going into the match, and how did you feel about it overall?
I was of two minds. Who I wanted to win was Riley, but who I thought will win was Merle, just because you can't take this guy down. He will just he will crush you. he is the best.
But I don't know. For some reason, I just had my doubts. Like, I know that, what everybody says. He's the one in front of the computer. He's the one fact-checking. He's, always. Movies go in his ear and out the other. But, I mean, the same is for Riley. And the fact that Riley has so many knockouts under his belt as well, I felt like it was just kind of silly to make it. It wasn't that hard of a decision. Like, it really felt like there's no, I don't know. I was so confident that Riley would take it. And I'm not saying Merle is terrible, because obviously that's a ridiculous thing to say. But it was tough. I mean, since I'm newer to the game, but to see the belt go, sort of leave the Schmoes Know arena and go over to Screen Junkies, I mean, that's a hard thing to handle. I mean, and who knows when we'll reclaim that, right? I mean, it's nuts.
Oh, it's crazy, but I'm confident that one day Ellis will come back and he will reclaim his rightful place as the champion.
Oh, you're saying Ellis is next?
Actually, yeah, because
really interesting. Okay, I don't hate it.
It's either
I'd want the
Ellis
to get it.
Ellis or Riley.
Okay, so you think Riley will take it back before, any of these other fools, like Little Evil, for example. He's not. Him and Jeff Snyder, I mean, I've just been, that huge fuss with the decision. Like, I know that they haven't had a match in a couple weeks, but I don't know. I just think it's hilarious that they're still at the bottom tier when it comes to the top 10 rankings.
And yet Little Evil is so confident that he'll be the champion.
Right. And he technically he's been in more matches than most of the people involved here, but he has the most losses out of anyone who's played the Schmoedown. So I find that interesting. I know they've been by hairs. I know he's not terrible, but it's just something to point out. Because he's 3-3. So, but the next two, it's one of these two. It's going to be Sam Levine or Clark Wolf that goes up against Dan Merle. And then, do you watch the top 10 Schmoedown sort of breakdown videos that they put out on YouTube where it's Christian and Mark explaining the rankings? Do you watch those?
Oh yeah. Did they put that one out this week too? I think I might have missed it.
They put one out tonight, right after the show that we watched. So it's up now, but it wasn't.
All right.
It wasn't earlier. So, but just to give you a brief rundown, he talked about sort of the Ultimate Schmoedown tournament that'll be coming up this fall, and something I'm getting really excited for is the Schmoedown Spectacular, the 5 matches in one in December. I think that's going to be nuts. It's, the Schmoes WrestleMania. I cannot wait for that. And also we had the big announcement that the Schmoedown is going to happen twice a week. So let me just ask you, is that too much Schmoedown, or are you happy with that decision?
I'm pretty excited. Now, is it going to be one of the matches is the Ultimate Schmoedown tournament, and the other is the partners league?
I think it's how it's going right now with and Christian probably said this, but it just left my mind. But I think it's what we've been seeing on Fridays, the singles matches, and then I think it's going to be the tag team is the other day, and I think we'll move more into the Ultimate Schmoedown. Well, maybe I think it's the singles match that will eventually turn into the Ultimate Schmoedown tournament. Yeah, Christian's probably listening to this and screaming at me like, no, you're giving out the wrong information, but Christian will explain it. I think that's how I understood it, though. And, this Schmoedown stuff can get pretty confusing, so.
Especially for newer fans who are only introduced to the Schmoedown via the Collider videos.
Right. But it's important. It's important. I think the Schmoedown can become the next sort of movie fights, if you will. So it's important, and I'm certainly glad that that's growing too, because I'm a huge fan of trivia. Period. So I love watching this stuff, and that's something that really I think has been helping their growth a lot. So. But anyway, I'm excited about all that stuff. Who do you think will win the big match tomorrow? Well, I don't know if you'd call it big. It's Matt Nost and Dewberry. I forgot that guy's name. For the guy from Machinima. I'm sorry, I'm blanking. But how do you feel about tomorrow's match? Is it kind of just like, or do you have a clear favorite?
Oh, Nost has this in the bag.
Oh, really? See, I don't know much about the Dewberry, obviously. I don't even know his name, but... naturally, I'm going with Nost, but why does he have it in the bag?
Well, I mean, I don't know how often you watch the Top 10 show, but he just seems like he has this like this confidence to him that's he doesn't seem like he's one to break in front of the lights. I think he'll do just fine.
I think that I've seen a match of his before. I didn't log into my memory. I think I was just doing my homework one night and trying to speed through a few matches to sort of learn what it was about. So I think I remember seeing him obviously with Roca in a team match. But in general though, like you said, just to be able to handle a show like the Top 10, you have to have so much movie knowledge. And when you're watching the Top 10, I'm a huge fan of that show, by the way, even when it was a podcast. I mean, those two guys can talk about all of those movies without... Like, I very rarely hear them mention that they don't remember something about the movies that they're talking about. Like, they're always... Those movies that they talk about are always fresh in their mind. And I'm sure they revisit them when they know that the list is going to come out, but I doubt that they watch 10 movies in a week just to prepare one list, So, huge credit to him. I'm going Nost purely because... I know him, but aside from that, that's all I have to say. I do kind of think, it's important. I think you should watch every Schmoedown match. I know some people just, hit the ones that are the popular people, the people that they're most familiar with. But, I mean, why not watch all of them? I mean, it's your one dose of weekly goodness, and, I don't know. I think it's always fun regardless. But as far as being able to, like, preview it on this podcast, I don't have much to offer, so maybe there'll be a ton to talk about next week. So but we're both going Nost, right? All right, good to know. All right, well, let's just briefly talk about what they did tonight, this pre-recorded show, and then we'll get out of here. I think the big thing the main thing I want to say is that Christian talked about doing the Schmoes Know show when he was on this podcast, and he told me that they talked about doing the Schmoes Know show every day, like an hour episode every day. And I was really intrigued by that, and that's where the conversation came up. Like, are you worried that it's going to cross-pollinate? That's what I wanted to say. Cross-pollinate into Collider too much. And he said, no. I think we got a glimpse of that here tonight with this material. Like, they did like an hour. It was sort of relaxed, and they didn't have all these segments involved. The segments that we love, of course, but it was just different. And I think if they followed this sort of routine that they did tonight, I think you could pull off an hour-long Schmoes Know show every day. How do you feel about that?
Again, it just depends on where it fits in the schedule. Because will I watch a Schmoes Know show every day? Of course I will. But I'm just trying to think of how just realistically they can pull it off. Otherwise, I like the idea, and I like the idea of it being sort of like if the shows on Collider are like a little more professional, like their day job, then like the Schmoes Know show can be, kind of the after hours, like they're just like hanging out at the bar shooting the shit,
Yeah, I think the conversation, like if they did like an episode tomorrow, for example, obviously they're gonna talk a lot about Ghostbusters. Let's say next Monday. Obviously on Collider Movie Talk, they're going to talk about Ghostbusters, and if they did a Schmoes Know show, they'd probably talk about Ghostbusters again. But I think it's the personalities that make it different. And there's more than one thing to talk about. So they did like 15 minutes of just shooting the shit, sort of similar to the live show, where it's just their personalities coming through. So I think that makes all the difference. And you're right. I mean, Collider is the professional. Stick to the sort of procedure of going through the two main topics and then the buy or sell, and it's just kind of like, I don't want to say by the numbers, but you know what you're getting when you're watching Movie Talk. You don't always know what you're getting for the Schmoes Know show, and the people that could rotate in and out. I think it could work. I don't know if he meant that they would do it live. I don't know if they pre-record it like earlier in the day and then release it later at night. I don't know if that's what they're talking about right now. I just think if it's similar to this format, it could absolutely work. And I don't know about you. I mean, like I said, I'm a huge fan of the live show, but there's something about this. We talked about last week. It felt fresh. I thought this felt fresh. I really enjoyed watching this.
Do you think an hour show is more digestible?
I do. I think, and I talked about this last week with Brian, I think that the two, when it comes to like telling people and spreading the word about Schmoes Know, leading off with, oh, well, they do this 2-hour live show. I don't think you should ever do that. Like, I think the live show is purely for the fans. Now, that doesn't mean that someone can't come in, find the movie reviews that they like, find Collider, and then say, oh, I really like these guys, and then become watchers of the podcast. I would just never lead off with that, because like even close friends of mine that know a lot about these guys, they're not watching this live show. It's 2 hours. They don't think they have time for it. They don't want to sit and watch something for 2 hours. And it's not something that, it doesn't say a lot about just who they are as people. It's strictly just the time. It's intimidating. So
what would be a good idea is showing them like the sections of the show that they chop up for YouTube, like a 5-minute section on, say for example, Ken Napzok's The News,
right,
or like a specific discussion. That's a good sample size if you want to like introduce someone to the podcast.
But it's not even like, if you show just a clip, you're not getting every aspect of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
that's a good point.
You don't realize that they shoot the shit for the first 30 minutes, and you don't realize that, all this other stuff goes on if you're just looking for those clips. So, yes, they're more digestible, but I don't know. I love the live show, like I said, but as far as bringing in new people, I think, a 45, similar to movie, I mean lengthwise, not structurally. Similar to Movie Talk every day, that just kind of shoot the shit and then talk about one particular thing. I don't want to compare it to the Campia podcast, but if it's like that sort of format, like whatever happens that day, they talk about it with all the personalities and, they're funny or whatever, I think that would really be great. And I'd be really curious. And instead of getting a huge 2-hour chunk, you get 5 hours, and it would just be a lot easier to take in. So I'm not saying that I wanted to replace that, like they get rid of the 2-hour live show. I'm definitely curious. They definitely have my curiosity, and I will support it, especially if it's like this tonight. How did you feel about this episode? Did you enjoy it for what it was, or did you miss the live show? I mean, anything in particular?
No, I liked it. I like how it's a smaller group, so so it's a little more relaxed. It's less. I don't want to say gimmicky because of all the different segments, but it just feels like you're hanging out with a group of friends as opposed to like some big production, which I think would be nice for like a daily show.
So before we wrap up and get out of here, I just wanted to say that, for one, I'm looking forward to seeing Finstock not interview the guys from Everybody Wants Some. I think those videos are up on the channel now. By the way, Cody, I love seeing you on tonight's show, by the way.
Yeah, that was nice too, getting to actually see Cody again.
I thought there was a lot you can do with that. I mean, that could kind of become like a shtick, like some kind of joke where they cut to him and he could do something funny. And I just thought that was interesting. You don't get a lot of that with the live show. So again, the fact that it was a little bit more intimate in that way, I mean, I thought that was really cool. So that definitely stood out. And you just don't get a lot of Cody in general. At least I don't think so. So.
Yeah, unless you count the SK podcast channel, you don't really see him that often.
Exactly. And I had to laugh, by the way. I was looking at the master post, and Jen Kemp was in there as always, and she thanked Mark for cutting Josh McCouga's social commentary on feminism off, because she said it made her cringe because she knew that whatever he was about to say was not going to be good. So I had to laugh and point that out. Jen Kemp, if you're listening, that was great, and we love you. Schmoeville loves you. Overall, just kind of cap off what they were actually talking about. I mean, it was an awesome discussion of Ghostbusters. I felt like they captured pretty much every aspect of the criticism and the backlash that has gone into this movie over the past months. Well, they pointed out years. So I just really thought their discussion was great. It could have been greater if Sasha and Miri, or, you know, anybody, a female perspective, were in on the mix. But, you know, I understand the circumstance that the show was under.
Yeah.
So anyway, and of course the repercussions of Swayze being in the studio last week. I thought that was hilarious.
That was hilarious.
But you know, man, this was nice just to kind of watch a relaxing show, a shorter show, and just kind of take a load off on this episode. It was good. I like having a break every now and then. So. All right, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on and chatting it up with me. Before we go, do you have anything you want to plug and say before we get out of here?
Just a quick plug for the website that I write for, geeksgamers.com. There's a lot of interesting articles that we have up every day, and also I record like movie reviews and TV recaps for all the CW shows, like Arrow and the Flash, on the Art Geeks and Gamers YouTube channel. So just want to give a little shout out to that. Awesome.
Definitely go check that out, guys. You can find me every week on this Schmoeville podcast. Thank you for listening. I love all the interactions that I've been getting, on whether it be the YouTube comments or on Twitter when you guys tweet at me. It's a lot of fun talking to you guys. You can follow me on Twitter at FilmBeefSnell, and you can find me on the Film Beef podcast. We review a movie every weekend. We've been recapping television. We talk about Preacher at the beginning of the week, and we talk about Mr. Robot at the end of the week. All that stuff is available for you now. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel, just simply Film Beef, or the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, whether it be iTunes, Stitcher, whatever. So definitely check me out over there. And yeah, next week, Michael, I'm sorry that you kind of got the short end of the stick. You didn't get the full like Schmoes Know live show recap treatment that everybody else gets. But we'll definitely have you on back here soon to do all that. And yeah, you guys know where to find this podcast because you're listening to it. If you're listening to it on YouTube, it's on the Schmoes Know show podcast feed. And if you're listening to it there, you can also find it on the SK podcast channel. And let me know what you think. So, you know, talk about what we talked about. Let me know if you have any ideas as to how, as fans, we can help grow the Schmoes, any ideas for them, whatever. Sound off in the comment section below if you're on YouTube. We'd love to talk about all that stuff. So thank you again. We'll see you next week.